Welcome to 7 Days Report, your reliable source of information from all major news from around the world. I'm your host, Vasilios Nikolaos Vitzilogiannis, and I'm happy to have you here with us this evening. Every weekend at 12 p.m. and 9 p.m., we bring you the latest headlines, in-depth analysis, and insightful commentary on the stories that matter most. Whether you're tuning in for a recap of the week or looking for a deeper understanding of global events, we've got you covered. Let's start with our first news. In a striking reversal, several billionaires who were once staunch supporters of President Donald Trump are now openly criticizing his administration. The shift comes as Trump's aggressive tariff policies wreak havoc on global markets, eroding fortunes and sparking fears of economic instability. Elon Musk, previously a senior advisor to Trump, has emerged as a vocal critic of the administration's trade strategies. Over the weekend, Musk mocked Peter Navarro, one of the architects of Trump's tariff plan, highlighting its potential to harm businesses reliant on imports. Musk also shared warnings from economists about the risks posed by protectionist policies, signaling growing discontent among Trump's billionaire allies. Investor Bill Ackman echoed these concerns, describing the tariffs as an economic nuclear war and warning that they could freeze business investment and consumer spending. Ackman's critique underscores broader apprehensions within the business community about the long-term damage to America's global reputation and economic stability. The fallout from Trump's policies extends beyond rhetoric. Since his inauguration in January, U.S. billionaires have collectively lost over $400 billion due to stock market declines. High-profile figures like Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos have seen their wealth plummet as indices like the Nasdaq suffered double-digit losses. Even Tesla, once a symbol of innovation under Musk, has faced a sharp decline in stock value and sales amid backlash against Musk's alignment with Trump. The billionaire class is now recalibrating its relationship with Trump. While some initially supported him for perceived business-friendly policies, the reality has been far more complex. Tariffs have disrupted supply chains and raised costs, while deregulation efforts have drawn criticism for favoring short-term gains over sustainable growth. As economic uncertainty mounts, Trump's billionaire allies appear increasingly divided, signaling a potential shift in the political dynamics that once buoyed his presidency. China has vowed to fight to the end in response to U.S. President Donald Trump's escalating tariff war, signaling a prolonged and intensifying conflict between the world's two largest economies. The latest round of tariffs has pushed tensions to the brink, with both sides refusing to yield. Last week, Trump announced a 34% tariff on Chinese imports, raising the total tariff burden on these goods to 54%. In retaliation, Beijing imposed reciprocal 34% tariffs on U.S. goods. On Monday, Trump threatened an additional 50% tariff unless China withdraws its retaliatory measures. If enacted, this would bring total U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods to a staggering 104%, effectively doubling prices for American consumers. China's Ministry of Commerce condemned Trump's actions as blackmail and vowed to resist further pressure. A statement from the ministry declared, should the U.S. persist in its demands, China is prepared to fight to the end, emphasizing Beijing's readiness for a trade war of attrition. Economists warn that such measures could lead to significant global economic repercussions, including market instability and recession fears. Beijing has also expanded its retaliatory strategy by restricting exports of rare earth minerals critical to U.S. industries and imposing operational sanctions on American companies. Analysts suggest that China's assertive stance may provoke further rounds of tariffs from Washington, heightening risks of economic decoupling between the two nations. Asian markets showed resilience on Tuesday, rebounding after initial declines sparked by the tariff announcements. However, broader uncertainty looms as businesses brace for higher costs and supply chain disruptions. With neither side showing signs of retreat, the trade war is poised to escalate further, raising questions about its long-term impact on global trade and economic stability. Both nations appear committed to their strategies, setting the stage for an intense battle over economic dominance. Devastating Israeli airstrike on a residential block in the Shujaiya neighborhood of Gaza City has resulted in the deaths of at least 35 Palestinians, with dozens more injured and many feared trapped under the rubble. The The attack, which targeted a senior Hamas operative, has been described as one of the deadliest in recent days, leaving widespread destruction and chaos in its wake. According to medical sources speaking to Al Jazeera, the death toll is likely to rise as rescue efforts continue. Civil defense teams and local residents are working tirelessly to locate survivors, but their efforts are hampered by a lack of equipment due to Israel's blockade of the Gaza Strip. The Israeli military claimed that the operation was aimed at a high-ranking Hamas fighter, although they did not disclose the individual's identity. They asserted that measures were taken to minimize civilian casualties, but witnesses described the scene as a massacre, with many of the victims being children and innocent civilians. The attack has exacerbated the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, where over 50,000 Palestinians have been killed since October 2023, according to Gaza's health ministry. The ongoing conflict has also led to severe shortages of food, fuel, and medical supplies, further endangering the lives of civilians in the besieged enclave. As the situation continues to deteriorate, international attention is focused on the urgent need for a ceasefire and humanitarian aid to alleviate the suffering of the Palestinian population in Gaza. The international community is being called upon to intervene and help bring an end to the violence that has ravaged the region for months. Germany's political landscape has taken a decisive turn as the conservative CDU-CSU bloc and the center-left SPD announced a coalition agreement on Wednesday, concluding weeks of intense negotiations. The deal paves the way for Friedrich Merz, leader of the CDU, to become Germany's next chancellor following February's federal elections. The coalition agreement comes at a critical moment for Germany, Europe's largest economy, which faces mounting challenges including global trade instability and economic stagnation. At a Berlin press conference, Merz described the deal as a strong plan with which we can jointly move our country forward again, emphasizing the coalition's ability to deliver stability and action during turbulent times. Key policy measures outlined in the agreement include tax reductions for middle-income earners and corporations, lower electricity taxes to boost competitiveness, and increase defense spending. The coalition also plans to repeal expedited citizenship processes and tighten immigration policies, reflecting growing pressure from the far-right Alternative for Germany, AfD, which surged to second place in recent polls. The SPD will oversee finance and defense ministries, with Lars Klingbeil likely to take on the role of finance minister. Meanwhile, the CDU will manage key portfolios such as foreign affairs and economic policy. Both parties have committed to modernizing Germany's infrastructure and digital systems while maintaining rent controls. Merz expressed optimism about Germany's future role in Europe, pledging stronger transatlantic ties and advocating for a unified EU response to global trade conflicts. However, critics have raised concerns about the coalition's compromises, particularly its shift towards stricter immigration policies and welfare reforms. The agreement now awaits formal approval by party members before Merz is officially elected chancellor next month. As Germany prepares for this new chapter, it remains to be seen how this coalition will address rising economic uncertainty and political polarization. Ukrainian authorities have opened an investigation into the alleged execution of 4 prisoners of war, POWs, by Russian forces in the southern village of Piatikatki, Zaporizhzhia Oblast. The incident, captured on drone footage and verified by the Associated Press, has drawn widespread condemnation as a blatant violation of international law. The footage reportedly shows 4 unarmed Ukrainian soldiers emerging from a ruined building with their hands raised in surrender. Moments later, soldiers in Russian uniforms are seen shooting them in the back. The Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs described the act as a systemic execution and called for accountability through the International Criminal Court, ICC, and other legal mechanisms. This is a clear war crime and a gross violation of the Geneva Conventions, said Dmytro Lubinets, Ukraine's human rights commissioner. He emphasized that such acts demonstrate a pattern of brutality by Russian forces since the invasion began in 2022. Ukrainian prosecutors have documented at least 245 POW killings attributed to Russian troops during this period. The incident occurred on March 13th, shortly before Russian forces raised their flag in Piatikatki as part of their territorial push. Conflicting narratives emerged from drone footage. Ukrainian sources show the executions, while pro-Russian videos claim the soldiers were captured alive. Experts have dismissed the latter as propaganda aimed at concealing war crimes. Rights groups and international observers have expressed outrage. Rollo Collins from the Center for Information Resilience called it one of the most evident cases of extrajudicial killings since late 2023. This is not typical combat, it is an illegal action, he said. Ukraine's investigation adds to over 157,000 potential war crimes cases being examined with international support. Officials have vowed to ensure justice for all victims and hold perpetrators accountable under international law. As we wrap up another edition of the 7 Days Report, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks for joining me this evening. We've covered a wide array of significant global events, and I hope you found our news insightful and engaging. Remember, you can catch us every weekend at 12 p.m. and 9 p.m. for your weekly major news from around the world. Stay tuned for our next meeting, where we'll dive deeper into the stories shaping our world. Until then, take care and keep informed. This is Vasilios Nikolaos Vitsilogiannis signing off. Goodbye.